Most people don't fail because they lack intelligence. They don't fail because they lack opportunity. They fail because they are afraid of what someone might think. Afraid of judgment, afraid of criticism, afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of being disliked, and that fear quietly controls their entire life. It controls what they wear, what they say, what they pursue, what they abandon. It controls how small they stay. Let me tell you something clearly. You will never control what people think. Not your family, not your friends, not your coworkers, not strangers online. You could live perfectly, and someone will still criticize you. That's reality. So the real question is not, how do I make them approve? The real question is, why am I letting their opinion decide my life? This audiobook is about taking that power back. Not by becoming arrogant, not by becoming reckless, but by becoming free. Free from validation, free from permission, free from invisible audiences. Because confidence does not come from applause. It comes from independence. And once you stop caring what they think, your posture changes, your voice steadies, your decisions sharpen, you stop asking, you start acting, and that is where real power begins. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Stop seeking approval. Approval feels good, that's why it's dangerous. From childhood, you were rewarded for pleasing people. Good grades, good behavior, good impressions. You learned something early. Approval equals safety. So now, as an adult, you chase it. You ask for opinions before making decisions. You soften your ideas to avoid rejection. You hesitate to pursue goals that might invite criticism. You don't call it approval seeking. You call it being considerate. But let's be honest, if your confidence rises when they praise you and falls when they criticize you, you are not confident, you are dependent. That's the key. Dependency creates hesitation, and hesitation kills momentum. Think about how many times you've delayed something because you weren't sure how it would be received. A career move, a business idea, a creative project, a boundary. You waited, you asked around, you checked reactions, you searched for reassurance. Why? Because you wanted to feel safe. But safety and growth rarely live in the same place. You have a choice. You can seek approval, or you can seek progress. Not both. Every time you ask, do you think this is a good idea? You are quietly saying, I'm not sure I trust myself. And that self-doubt compounds. Strong people move differently. They gather information, they assess, they decide, and once they decide, they move. They don't poll the room. They don't wait for applause. They act. You don't need permission. Say that to yourself. I don't need permission. Again, I don't need permission. Approval is optional. Action is necessary. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Some people will disapprove no matter what you do. So if disapproval is guaranteed, why are you trying so hard to avoid it? Stop seeking approval. Start building self-trust. Because every time you act without needing validation, your confidence strengthens. And that strength becomes internal, not rented, owned. Chapter 2. Understand that they're not thinking about you. You think they're watching you. They're not. You think they're analyzing your mistakes, replaying what you said, judging how you looked, questioning your decisions. They're not. They're thinking about themselves, their problems, their insecurities, their image, their next move. This is called the spotlight effect. You feel like you're standing under a bright light, but in reality, everyone else is standing under their own. Let that sink in. Most of the judgment you fear exists only in your imagination. And imagination is powerful. It can shrink your voice, shrink your ambition, shrink your personality, all because of thoughts that aren't even real. You replay conversations in your head. Did that sound stupid? Did I say too much? Did they think I was awkward? Meanwhile, they went home and thought about dinner. That's the truth. You are not the center of their mental world. And that realization is freeing. Because if they're not thinking about you, why are you thinking so much about them? You hesitate to speak up in meetings. You hold back opinions. You overthink text messages. You dress according to what feels acceptable. For what? For an audience that isn't paying attention. You have a choice. You can live cautiously to avoid imagined judgment. Or you can live boldly and accept that attention fades quickly. Think about this. When someone embarrasses themselves publicly, how long do you think about it? Minutes? Maybe hours? Then you move on. That's exactly what people do with you. Your mistakes are not permanent headlines. They are passing moments. The only person replaying them is you. And the more you replay them, the more control they gain. Let it go. Say it. They are busy with their own lives. Again, they are busy with their own lives. Most people are too consumed with their own image to analyze yours. And even if someone does judge you, so what? Their judgment changes nothing. It doesn't reduce your ability. It doesn't shrink your potential. It doesn't define your future. Unless you let it. Confidence grows when you realize the crowd is quieter than you thought. You can speak without perfect wording. You can act without perfect timing. You can exist without perfect approval. Because no one is studying you the way you think they are. And once you understand that, you stop performing, you start living, you stop rehearsing every sentence. You stop editing your personality. You stop shrinking your ambition. You take space, not aggressively, but naturally, because you no longer believe the room is against you. It isn't, and even if someone in it is, their opinion is not your prison. Free yourself from imaginary audiences. They don't deserve the rent-free space in your head. Now we go deeper, because even when you realize they aren't thinking about you, there's still one problem left. You're still letting their opinions define you. And that's what we eliminate next. Chapter 3. Detach your identity from their opinion. An opinion is not a definition, but you treat it like one. Someone calls you inexperienced, and you start doubting your capability. Someone says you're too ambitious, and you shrink your goals. Someone questions your decision, and suddenly you question yourself. Why? Because you've confused observation with identity. You've allowed other people's words to become mirrors. That's dangerous, because most opinions are not objective. They are projections. People judge based on their fears, their limitations, their insecurities. If someone says, "That's unrealistic," what they often mean is, "I wouldn't attempt that." If someone says, "You've changed," what they often mean is, "You're no longer behaving in a way that benefits me." Opinions reveal more about the speaker than the subject. That's the key. But when you internalize every opinion, you hand over authorship of your identity. You let someone else edit your self-image, and that weakens you. You must learn to separate feedback from identity. Feedback is data, identity is decision. Data can be useful, identity must be chosen. There's a difference. If someone says you need to improve your communication skills, that might be data. If someone says you'll never succeed, that's projection. Strong people filter, weak people absorb. You must become a filter. Say this: their thoughts are not my identity. Again, their thoughts are not my identity. Criticism only hurts when it hits something you secretly believe. If it's false, it doesn't stick. If it stings, ask yourself why. Is there truth here I can use? Or am I reacting to tone instead of substance? Detachment gives you clarity. You can listen without collapsing. You can hear without internalizing. You can evaluate without absorbing. And that is emotional strength. There's another side to this. Praise. Praise can be just as dangerous as criticism.
If criticism defines you negatively, praise can define you artificially. If someone calls you brilliant, you feel elevated. If someone calls you talented, you feel validated. But if your confidence depends on praise, it's still dependent. It rises and falls with opinion. True confidence is neutral. It does not spike with compliments. It does not crash with insults. It remains steady, because identity is self-determined. You decide who you are through action, not through applause, not through criticism, through consistency. You have a choice. You can build your identity internally, through discipline and action, or you can outsource it to unstable opinions. Only one creates strength. Imagine living in a way where someone insults you and you don't flinch. Not because you're numb, but because you're certain. Certainty eliminates fragility. You know your standards. You know your effort. You know your direction. And when you know those things, opinions lose power. You stop defending yourself constantly. You stop explaining your character. You stop arguing your worth. Because you're no longer negotiating your identity. You are defining it, every day, through behavior, not words. Let this sink in. You are not who they say you are. You are who you repeatedly choose to be. And once you anchor identity internally, the noise gets quieter. Now we move to the next layer. Because even when you detach from identity, there's still a habit that gives opinion power. Over-explaining. And that's what we eliminate next. Chapter 4. Stop explaining your choices. Over-explaining is insecurity trying to survive. Read that again. When you over-explain, you are not clarifying. You are defending. You explain why you can't attend. You explain why you changed direction. You explain why you're focusing more. You explain why you said no. Why? Because you want them to understand. But here's the truth. Understanding is not required. Clarity is. There's a difference. Clarity is simple. This is what I've decided. Over-explaining sounds like this. Well, I just think right now it makes more sense because of everything going on and I don't want anyone to think that. That's insecurity negotiating. Strong decisions don't negotiate. They state, you have a choice. You can explain your boundaries, or you can enforce them. When you explain excessively, you invite debate. People don't argue with decisions. They argue with reasons. The more reasons you give, the more handles they have to grab. And once they grab those handles, they pull. They question. They push. They persuade. Now your decision feels unstable. Not because it was wrong, but because you made it negotiable. Confidence speaks once. Insecurity repeats itself. Think about the strongest person you know. Do they write essays to justify their choices? No. They say, "I'm not available. That's not for me. I've decided to go another direction." And they stop. Silence follows. And silence communicates certainty. You don't owe a breakdown of your thought process. You don't owe a defense of your growth. You don't owe a justification for your standards. Say it. No explanation required. Again, no explanation required. Over-explaining often comes from fear. Fear of being disliked. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of disappointing someone. But let me ask you something. If someone only accepts you when you justify yourself, is that respect or control? Strong people are comfortable being misunderstood because they know clarity does not require agreement. If someone disagrees with your boundary, that's fine. It's still your boundary. You don't need them to approve it. You just need to maintain it. And that takes discipline. Here's a simple shift. Replace long explanations with short statements. Instead of, "I can't come because I've been really busy and I need to focus and I don't want you to think I'm avoiding you." Say, "I won't be able to make it." Pause. Let the silence work. Silence is not awkward. It's powerful. It shows you are not scrambling for validation. The more comfortable you become with silence, the less you will feel the urge to fill it. And when you stop filling silence with insecurity, your presence changes. You appear grounded, decisive, certain, even if internally you're still growing. Remember this. Explaining is often an attempt to control how others feel about you. But you cannot control their feelings. So stop trying. Make the decision. State it clearly. Stand by it. That's strength. Now we go further. Because even after you stop explaining, there's one reality you must accept. No matter how disciplined you become, someone will still disapprove. And that's where most people collapse. Let's fix that next. Chapter 5. Accept that someone will always disapprove. No matter what you do, someone will disagree. If you're quiet, you're boring. If you're outspoken, you're arrogant. If you're ambitious, you're selfish. If you're relaxed, you're lazy. There is no version of you that satisfies everyone. None. And once you truly accept that, something inside you relaxes. Because the exhausting game of universal approval ends. Here's the mistake most people make. They think, if I just explain better, if I just act more carefully, if I just adjust slightly, everyone will approve. They won't. Approval is subjective, and people judge through the lens of their own comfort. If your growth challenges their comfort, they will resist it. That's human nature. When you level up, you become a mirror. And mirrors make insecure people uncomfortable. Your ambition highlights their stagnation. Your discipline highlights their excuses. Your boundaries highlight their dependency. And instead of adjusting themselves, they criticize you. Not because you're wrong, but because you moved. Disapproval is not proof you failed. It's proof you differentiated. Read that again. If nobody ever disapproves of you, you are blending in too much. You are adapting too much. You are shrinking too much. Strong individuals are polarizing, not because they try to be, but because clarity creates contrast. You have a choice. You can live in a way that minimizes criticism, or you can live in a way that maximizes growth. Growth invites friction. Friction invites opinion. Opinion invites discomfort. And discomfort is not danger. It's expansion. Most people retreat the moment they feel disapproval. They soften their stance. They dilute their ambition. They compromise their standards. Why? Because rejection feels threatening. But rejection is not fatal. It's feedback about alignment. If someone disapproves of your discipline, your ambition, your focus, maybe they are not aligned with your future. And that's okay. You cannot elevate and stay universally comfortable. That's the trade. Say it. Disapproval is part of growth. Again, disapproval is part of growth. The sooner you accept that someone will misunderstand you, the freer you become. You stop correcting every narrative. You stop defending every move. You stop trying to be digestible. You focus on being consistent. Let people disagree. Let them question. Let them talk. Their opinion is not your ceiling. Your reaction to it is. If you react emotionally, you lose power. If you shrink, you lose momentum. If you stay steady, you win. Confidence is not the absence of criticism. It's stability in the presence of it. And when you no longer fear disapproval, you move faster, cleaner, with less hesitation. Now we build the final layer. Because removing the fear of opinion is not enough. You must replace it with something stronger. Internal confidence, built through action. That's next. Chapter 6. Build confidence through action, not validation. If you remove validation but don't replace it with something stronger, you will drift. Because humans need reinforcement, the question is, where does yours come from? Most people build confidence through compliments. You're doing great. I'm proud of you. That's impressive. And for a moment, they feel powerful. But the moment criticism arrives, that power disappears. Because it wasn't built. It was borrowed. Borrowed confidence is fragile. Built confidence is stable. That's the key. Confidence is not a feeling. It is evidence. Evidence that you do what you say. Evidence that you follow through. Evidence that you can trust yourself. Self-trust is the real source of confidence. And self-trust is built through action. Not discussion. Not intention. Action. Every time you promise yourself something and follow through, you strengthen internal authority. Every time you hesitate because of someone's opinion, you weaken it. You have a choice. You can talk about what you're going to do. Or you can do it quietly. Talking creates temporary satisfaction. Doing creates permanent confidence. There is a reason disciplined people speak less about their goals. They understand something powerful. Announcing goals gives emotional reward before effort. The brain releases satisfaction too early. And early satisfaction kills urgency. Quiet goals build urgency. Because the only way to feel progress is to execute. Let me give you a simple exercise. Set a goal. Do not tell anyone. Not your friends. Not your partner. Not social media. Just you. Complete it. Then notice the difference. The confidence feels different. Quieter. But stronger. Because it's rooted in evidence. Not applause. Confidence that comes from validation fluctuates. Confidence that comes from execution stabilizes. You don't need someone to say you're disciplined. You need to act disciplined. You don't need someone to say you're capable. You need to produce capability. You don't need someone to say you're improving. You need to improve. And here's the powerful part. When confidence is built through action, criticism loses impact. Because you have proof. Internal proof. You know how hard you worked. You know the consistency you maintained. You know the effort you applied. That knowledge makes opinion lighter. Less threatening. Less intrusive. Say this. I build confidence by doing. Again. I build confidence by doing. Validation is unstable. Action is stable. When you act consistently, you become your own reference point. You don't need to look around for reassurance. You look inward and see evidence. And evidence silences doubt. Now we reach the final shift. Because once you stop caring what they think, once you stop explaining, once you accept disapproval, once you build internal confidence, there is one final choice left. Do you want to be liked? Or do you want to be respected? That's where we finish. Chapter 7. Choose respect over being liked. Most people say they want respect. But they behave in ways that chase approval. They soften their opinions. They avoid difficult conversations. They laugh at things they don't find funny. They agree when they don't actually agree. Why? Because being liked feels safe. Being respected feels risky. That's the difference. Being liked requires adaptation. Being respected requires standards. You have to decide which one matters more. If your goal is to be liked by everyone, you will constantly adjust yourself. You will dilute your edges, lower your boundaries, compromise your truth, and over time, you will lose something important. Self-respect. Because every time you betray your standards to stay liked, you weaken your internal authority. Respect works differently. Respect comes from consistency. It comes from keeping your word. From staying calm under pressure. From standing firm when tested. Not from pleasing. Respect does not require volume. It requires steadiness. Think about the people you truly respect. Are they the ones who try to impress everyone? Or are they the ones who move with quiet certainty? The ones who don't chase attention. Who don't over-explain. Who don't bend under social pressure. They might not be universally liked. But they are solid. And solidity attracts. Here's the hard truth. The moment you stop trying to be liked, some people will distance themselves. Let them. Because those who only valued you for your flexibility were never respecting you in the first place. They valued your compliance. Respect is earned when you remain aligned with your standards. Even when it costs you approval. You have a choice. You can shape yourself to avoid discomfort, or you can stand in discomfort and grow. Growth commands respect. Pleasing commands tolerance. There is a difference. Say it. I choose respect over approval. Again, I choose respect over approval. When you stop chasing likes, your behavior shifts. You speak more directly. You hesitate less. You apologize less for existing. Not aggressively, but confidently. You stop explaining your boundaries. You stop shrinking your ambition. You stop scanning rooms for validation. And something powerful happens. People feel it. They may not articulate it, but they sense the shift. Your energy becomes grounded. Your presence becomes calm. Your words become deliberate. That is quiet authority. And quiet authority does not need applause. It commands attention naturally. Now take a step back. Look at the path you just walked. You stopped seeking approval. You realized they aren't thinking about you. You detached your identity from opinion. You stopped over-explaining. You accepted disapproval. You built confidence through action. You chose respect over being liked. Now we close. And we anchor this permanently. Closing. Live uncontrolled. You cannot control what people think. You never could. But you can control how much power you give those thoughts. From this moment forward, stop shrinking. Stop explaining. Stop rehearsing your personality to be digestible. You do not need permission to grow. You do not need consensus to act. You do not need applause to begin. Move quietly, decisively. Build confidence through action. Let them misunderstand you. Let them question you. Let them doubt you. None of it changes your path unless you allow it. Freedom begins when opinion loses authority. And authority returns to you. Say it one last time. I don't need their approval. Again, I don't need their approval. Now live like it. Move without hesitation. Speak without apology. Act without waiting. Because the moment you stop caring what they think is the moment you finally start living for yourself.